Welcome. Good morning to a rock and roll. It is 11:26 a.m. in the morning. Yours truly, welcome to a special Rainbow Coffee with yours truly, independent artist, independent activist, independent athlete, AAA, plus other dimensions, geopolitical analyst, and theorist whose philosophies and spiritual meditations, that's which we'll do. But first and foremost, because if Dragon would have a radio show, television show, there would be not during the hour, which at a point in time, preferably at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, that yours truly will not send gratitude, appreciation, and thanks to the farmers, because everybody gotta eat, even Wall Street, please, Wall Street. Give 10% if you make a million. Buy, sell, trade stocks, futures, options, puts, buy, sell. 10% of a million is 100,000. Divided by 4 equivalates 25,000, which you can give for food security, women's sports leagues, and LGBTQ youth issues, and as well to plant a tree for every tree that we cut down. You're still independent artist, activist, athlete, AAA, and other dimensions, geopolitical analyst, and theorist, philosopher. Yours truly, the world's greatest living, dancing, millennial rainbow poet, who's not perfect, far from it, but I am grateful. Carpe diem today. Thank you, farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, those workers yesterday who came, sanitation workers of the city who came put with brains and muscle, those the garbage for us to have cleaner environments, to put the garbage in the trucks. Big dragon hugs. Thank you to all farmers, butchers, bakers, truckers. Let's do a meditation now for all the truckers across the collective North American civilization from Quebec, La Belle Province, going with those big trucks driving, of course, and their safety to their healing. Maybe they need some LOV, somebody to say love you, love you, love you, some big dragon hugs. Because I'm more and more disappointed about radio, television. I don't hear nothing about LOV so much. And thankful gratitude to the farmers, butchers, bakers, truckers who transport our supply chains integrated, going east, west, north, south, now across Canada. Hundreds, tens of thousands, maybe, of course, tens of thousands of trucks from Mexico, Canada, US, as we are a collective North American civilization, which my theory, geopolitical analysis and theory has proponent, and I've, of course, discoursed it and have lectured it and will continue to lecture as the people's doctor, the doctor of the people who's not perfect, far from it. Got some issues, got some vices, got some lusts. No need to spy me, RCMP, CSIS, FBI, KGB, Stasi are gone to 1989 because watch a little PORN during the weekends, but I haven't watched that weekend and the weekend before just a little bit. So, anyways, and I'm broke financially, but got trillions of kisses, got some brains and some muscle. The people's athlete created my own workout training program, and I'm grateful for today as I am open for business. I'm going to say gratitude, thanks again to the farmers, butchers for this cup of coffee. See, this black cup of coffee comes from a red berry originally somewhere from the world, and of course, in my spiritual meditations and my spiritual philosophy of the dancing goddess kingdom, which is one with the dragon empire, and the dancing goddess kingdom are one, which is my dream for world peace, and of course for the security, joy, renewal, rebirth, and regeneration of the collective North American civilization, of which myself as a Quebecer from Hawk Island metropolis city, Montreal, aka Hawk Island, as an independent athlete, artist, and activist who died during COVID, and I'm being reborn. As a matter of fact, in this February, I'm going to celebrate my 3 years since I had COVID back at the beginning, which was very hardcore. Almost died. I was very sickle and disease. I am triple vaccinated. Please increase in hygiene in public with this new variant, aka Kraken, told by that name on COVID. My Trinity has been, is, and will be this, my brothers and sisters, citizens of Quebec, La Belle Province, Canada, North America. I do not know what caused COVID. I believe it was transmitted, what's called in terminology, official scientific terminology, zoonotic transmission, and of course, I believe it was transmitted from snakes, although cannot rule out another possibility since my belief that snakes transmitted it is not 100% proven or conclusive. Some say bats is another popular opinion, and popular opinion is zoonotic, ZOONIC. Zoonotic is the terminology meaning basically from animals to human beings, the transmission from animals to human beings, that it was transmitted COVID, that is, from animals and human beings, and thus with the continuing mutations which are ongoing and quite alarming. Please increase in hygiene in public, and I encourage all to work out, to train, and to exercise. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will continue to be my medicine and therapy of choice, as I, of course, lost more than 77 pounds and have created my own workout training program system, of which I am proud to have created and which requires no equipment. And of course, the first session of which I performed was October 2019, 17th of October. Paradoxically, my workout was made and created to go hand in hand with a World War III scenario, as you heard that correct, as back in 2019 as being a independent geopolitical analyst and theorist, an independent geopolitical analyst and theorist who has analyzed the world situation, the geopolitical complexities, and the trends, in geopolitics. Back then, I have concluded that humanity, unfortunately, were again towards a path towards international conflagration, and so, of course, have created that workout training program system, of which have officially turned, changed, transformed the A of my surname into an O on September 29th of last year, 2022, have of course completed successfully 300 sessions of my own workout training program, which is simple, effective, and efficient. Thank you for the coffee, farmers, butchers, bakers, truckers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all those working in sanitation of the city. Even a shout out, of course, do a little bit of meditation, that I have this coffee which I brewed with clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy. I brewed this cup of coffee, and of course that I have this internet connection, that I have this light electricity above my head, right? And I have food for the day, food on a budget, but I got bread. Thank you for the donation for food security to the community, free at Gin, Hawk Island, Montreal here. May you be rewarded, blessed threefold. And of course that I have this cup of coffee, and this black coffee bean coming from inside a red berry, which initially was made, produced, and designed and created by the dance of the goddess with her brother the sun. And my Pope the Sun now rises and now sets. And yours truly, this cup of coffee, of course, comes either the black bean, the beans for coffee bean come either from Central America, maybe Panama, maybe Costa Rica, maybe Cuba, maybe Colombia. Brazil is still the biggest producer and exporter of coffee beans. It could be from Africa, Uganda, Ivory Coast, or Ethiopia, or it can even be from Vietnam, as in the past, since 2010, Vietnam has dedicated a lot of area and they grow a lot of coffee bean crops. Or it could be from any particular of these countries, from Vietnam, from Asia, from Africa, Uganda, or Ethiopia, or Ivory Coast, or it could be from Brazil. Do not know that it's dark roast, and know that it was, of course, imported, since we do not have coffee here in Quebec, La Belle Province, Canada. But of course, it was also transported on trucks, and to those truckers now is across the collective North American civilization, the people's athlete, going east, west, north, south, with tons of goods, of potato, of carrots, of all the lettuce and the fruits and the grains, and all the milk. Dragon sends some LOVE, some big dragon hugs, and you're appreciated. If you don't get love, see me marching on the streets. If you want hugs, HUGS, got plenty of supplies, all you can hug. Dragon, all you can hug. So thank you. I appreciate the truckers, the butchers, the farmers, the grocery store clerks, the nurses, and please, Wall Street, if you make a million, buy, sell, trading stocks now, future options, puts in that Wall Street business. If you make a million on the stock market today doing that business and the Wall Street buying, selling, trading stocks, please call it a hard gift. 10% for food security of that million. 10% of a million is the equivalent of 100,000. 100,000 divided by 4 is the equivalent of 25,000. You can give to 4 different causes. That's 10% of what profit of a million is 100,000. And divided by 4, make it 25,000 for, of course, women's sports leagues. Food security first, because everybody got to eat it on Wall Street. Food security, women's sports leagues, LGBTQ youth issues, and of course environmental causes. Thank you again, truckers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, all those in warehouses loading and unloading the trucks across the collective North American civilization, and of course all those cooks, the cooks, and of course those who transported this cup of coffee, probably from, most likely it's from Brazil, because Brazil is the top exporter of coffee in the world still, but it's probably also from another country such as Colombia, or of course Costa Rica, or maybe Ivory Coast, or any other country that produces coffee among the top 5 or top 10. 2, world peace. World peace, of course, has to become through action, and of course action is required in parallel with philosophy and the things that we do as a collective or as an individual here in Quebec, La Belle Province, hoping for a regeneration, rebirth, a post-COVID world, as of course I want nothing to go back to myself pre-COVID, and I'm gonna mark 3 years when I had COVID in February, 3 years old, February, about mid-February or so. Was very sick the first time. I had it like 3 times. Each time was milder, and now with the Kraken circulating, of course I'm monitoring for myself for symptoms. And please increase in hygiene in public. Wash your hands with soap, wash your hands with disinfectant, wash your hands with soap and water in public. I strongly encourage and urge all people, when you go in a domain which is not your private quarters. Right here I'm in my underground room, office and temple, where I write poetry, where I do songs, where I work out, train, exercise. So it's also my, not only a philosophical, theoretical, where I write theories, philosophies, art, where I, of course, analyze, continue to do so, analyze geopolitical trends, but also where I work out, train, and exercise, and where, of course, I say my gratitude as I carpe diem it every day, since, of course, I'm going to mark in the coming days and weeks, few weeks now, 2 weeks from now, I'm going to mark 3 years since I had COVID. And personally, I do not want to go back to anything pre-COVID. I want to move forward, and I believe many of my theories, which I've written over the past years and I've discoursed and lectured live on Facebook and on YouTube, which will be posted on my YouTube channel. And of course, I do firmly believe in my Trinity of theories: the CIT, Citizen Integration Theory; the DRT, the Democratic Fusion Theory; and the DRT, the Death Refusion Theory; and the DFT via the fourth dimension, LOV, and love is action. Sending some love to the farmers who grow crops, of course, because everybody gotta eat and we need food to sustain civilization. And a food security is super important for this independent athlete, independent artist, independent activist. AAA plus other dimensions as a philosopher who's not perfect, far from it. Do admit that at some things I am mediocre, at some things I am average, at some things I am so-so. While admitting that I am so-so, average and mediocre, I do also see and notice that, of course, at some other things I am super excellent and great, such as geopolitical analysis. And of course, my analysis back in 2019 proved in many ways, many parallels, to be very conclusive and very on the point of the things which are, of course, emerging and have concluded and are manifesting in the world. Unfortunately, as I am a world peace advocate, but I do acknowledge that I have aggression within myself. And what I've done, of course, during the past years, a great work on self to channel and sublimate the forces, whether it's aggression, whether it's sexual impulses or lust or whatever. We have two keywords of my psychological, spiritual, philosophical, artistic, social philosophy are these two keywords: channeling and sublimating. Sublimating and channeling, sublimating and channeling. Yeah, I get dirty, but I get back clean. As a matter of fact, I do have cleaning to do this week in my own room, office, and temple, and on myself, and hoping that when I go to me emails later today after this video session, I'm gonna get a positive response to, as I offer my services and business, blah 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 blah. I'm hoping, because I've contacted 300 PMEs here in Quebec to offer my services in the French language. And of course, I'm a Quebecer. I'm a Canadian North American who was born in many past lives, many incarnations. As a matter of fact, I was born right here on this Montreal, aka Hawk Island, Montreal, in a past life. Was born right here in this island in a past life. And I love the French language. I love writing poetry, writing songs, rock and roll songs in French, of course. I'm gonna do one demonstration now. Il y a bien des choses j'ai oublié, mais pas le français. Ah ouais, venez danser, s'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît, s'il vous plaît. I really love the French language, so if anybody wants to sponsor someone that have good French, I am a Quebecer, I'm a Canadian, I'm a North American, and I wish peace upon the world. But of course, we are living tough times, economically, socially, financially, and of course, for a lot of mental health issues and a lot of issues that we got to focus for solutions. One of my solutions for myself is working out, training, and exercising. It has really been an investment and have been for years now, and will continue to do so today when I work out, train, exercise, that special dragon gridiron workout that I have been calling. And please, my brothers, I'm going to say brothers because let's face it, there's patriarchal sports leagues, there's not even one women's sports leagues which makes even close economically, financially, commercially, in terms of that money to what the NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB make. And I do love the sports. I do love football, love gridiron, love basketball, and love hockey. Baseball, I can tolerate it. But please, 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 my brothers in the aforementioned leagues, I am calling on, call it a heart for the mass financing of food security, and give 10% and give tickets for the future, for the farmers, for those involved in the production and the distribution of food, for the playoffs, for the coming games, for the postseason. They call it a heart of what yours truly, Dragon Zero, calls for all to do, because it has to. Action is required, and doing things is part of the healing process, my own healing. Say a blessing on this coffee. my own healing, regeneration, and transformation. And I'm forming as I'm speaking, wishing for regeneration, rebirth of Quebec, La Belle Province, and Canada, and with securing joy and some joy for the youth, and everything that we do with working out, training, and exercising, and initiatives and programs that are public-private partnership in nature. What I'm calling and have been calling, and I'm calling is for a public-private partnership in order for food security, for people to be encouraged to work out, to train, exercise. Sometimes, when you get moody, and myself, for moody, I've been depressed and suicidal. I'm happy to report that I've conquered depression, and yours truly, Dragon Zero fights his own battles. If anybody wants to put some gloves on my anonymous friend sister who gave me the gloves so we can tango in a rink, no problem. We can go one on one on in a rink. If I offended XYZ, we can we can freestyle battle rap or dance. You best. I'm gonna rap and rock and roll for the farmers, butchers, bakers, nurses, doctors, grocery store clerks, and what have you. It is 11:42 a.m. Grateful for this cup of coffee. Thankful that my rent is fully paid. Fully paid my rent for the month of January. Fully paid my electricity bill. Fully paid my half of my internet bill, and what was that trinity of bills, triple bills paid. Got the fourth dimension. Got food later on a budget. Good bread for the donation. Thank you for the food security donation and this cup of coffee. A special rock and roll edition. We're going to do a review. Hunger Games. For the first time, well, I might have seen it a few years ago, but of course, I'm gonna see it when it come out. But I lost a lot of memory. I remember much except to what I've written in journals and on USB keys and poetry and about my youth, adolescence, early childhood, and I remember mostly the past years and the COVID, of course, pre-COVID, and it gets a little bit foggy for me. Paradoxically, I've written over past lives, incarnations in journals of my spiritual as being a universal spiritual teaching student, because I'm learning every day. I do say the word goddess, Goddess, in my spirituality. When they got it, I got it, goddess set to balance the equation, forcing for world peace across the nations. For the goddess blesses sunlight with the moon shines. Spreading, give a dime, spreading, give a time. Give a kiss and give a rhyme. Give a kiss and give a rhyme. Give a kiss and give a dime. Kisses got by the plenty with hugs, some brains, some muscle, some art. So it's gonna be a review of the Hunger Games. I haven't done movie reviews in a while. I think it's been a year or 2 years since I haven't done a movie review. So Hunger Games, it's more than a trilogy, right? Because there's two. There's two Mockingjays, part one, Mockingjay, the second part, and there's of course the the Hunger Games, which is a trilogy, or it's really a quadrilogy. What do we call it? If it's not a trilogy. So wow, I was really impressed. Like I said, I might have seen part one or two, and but I watched it all during the weekend. So I've watched it all the four parts. And I have to say, wow, what a masterpiece in many ways. So it's as I like literature, I do enjoy science fiction literature, and of course I do enjoy a little bit of a utopian dystopian. What's the category known as dystopia, the category known as utopia, and science fiction. And Arthur C. Clarke is my favorite sci-fi writer. Arthur C. Clarke. He actually Arthur C. Clarke is credited to having, in many of his books, kind of foreseen present day internet and computers and the use of computers and even supercomputers and satellite technology. One of the orbits of the satellite is called actually by Clarke. It's the surname. Arthur is the first name, and Clarke, Clarcke, Clarke. Arthur C. Clarke. It's named after his surname, one of the constellations, and of course, meditating now that we do have satellites. And a few days ago was also announced that Canada will partake again in the building of, from what I do understand, a public-private partnership type of setting, of which, of course, I am calling for myself in all my initiatives and endeavors and projects and programs. That Canada is going to be again a. We're trying to launch satellites from Canada. We're going to try to launch satellites from Canada. Try to actually launch them from Canada, because we, of course, have built in the past, and actually historically milestone is Canada was the third country in the world to send a satellite in the sky. So in the, I believe 1962, 1961, between okay, it's either 1961, 1962, or 1963. That I'm sure of. Now, if it's 61, 63, or 62, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of doubt. But I'm sure that it's either 1961 or 1962 or 1963. One of those years that Canada officially launched, was the third country after the Soviet Union at the time, what's known as the USSR, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, and what's known as, of course, the during the Cold War, the period of history which was long, from 1947 till about 1989, for more than 42 years, more than 42 years the Cold War lasted. So, of course, the USSR was the first, right? The USSR, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, because the USSR stood for that, of which Russia was the biggest, most populated country, right? Because there were 15 other countries. Ukraine was part of it, Kazakhstan was part of it, Belarus, Moldova. Lots of different countries comprised the USSR, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics. 15, I believe, in total. Georgia as well, and other countries, and Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, right? All the countries. Kazakhstan is a very big in terms of geographical expanse, but Russia, and I believe another 15, or Russia was 15 with Russia, or Russia plus 15. Now there's a doubt in this also, but I'm pretty sure 15 countries, maybe Russia included in those 15, or Russia plus other 15 countries that are now nation states, countries that are now independent nation states in the world. At one point were part of what was known as the USSR, the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, or the Soviet Union, in other words. So a lot of countries were part of it, even in Europe, in Eastern Europe. There was, of course, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia as well. These three countries: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia. Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia were part of what's known as the Baltic states. The Baltic states in geopolitics. So the Soviet Union was the first to launch a satellite in space, right, in the 50s, and then the United States followed, and then Canada followed. Canada was the third to launch a satellite. So, anyways, back to the Hunger Games. So the Hunger Games, of course, is set in a fictional environment. It's fiction, but it's part fiction, part semi-fiction, semi-not, because it's the country, the state, or the union, whatever type of it's. It seems that it's a dictatorial, totalitarian, autocratic type of system. It doesn't have specific, I was going to say a bit of theocracy, but not really, although it does have some semi-religious component to the Hunger Games, which they're part of a type of a, for me at least, type of a new religious type of psychological, political, social, philosophical major part of the society. The event known as the Hunger Games, right? Is maybe it's the Super Bowl, but take it to a to the power of 11, or to the extreme power, of course. So the Hunger Games revolves in a post. It's it's fiction, of course, but it's partly inspired because, of course, Pan Am, right, from Pan America, and it's involved in North America. So it takes place in North America. In North America, the events take place in North America in the future state. From what we see from the images, there was a terrible war. It was a nuclear war. You see, a nuclear explosion at one point. Well, there was a sort of a North American civil war, or intercontinental, on the continent North America, and then the new government took place. From what we know, since it was 74th annual Hunger Games, so this was maybe about 70 years, more than 70 years after that war, terrible, disastrous war event which occurred. And the official head of state is a president, but it's not a democracy. So Pan Am society is not a democracy. And the story revolves around, of course, the games, the Hunger Games, and Katniss Everdeen, played by Jennifer Lawrence. Great acting, by the way, by Jennifer Lawrence. It's Katniss Evergreen. Everdeen, correction, not green as the color, but Dean. Everdeen. Everdeen, right? The surname Everdeen, Katniss' first name. So around the Katniss Everdeen, which she plays very good, very passionate, very good, incarnates the role, I believe, of Katniss Everdeen very, very, very well. And so, of course, she's the protagonist, and the antagonistic are the forces led by President Snow, Coriolanus Snow. And from what I do understand, there is a prequel in the making at the moment, which would be, I would be interested to see it, of course, since I do loved. I rated a high, to rate it all together would be probably like a good close to a 9 on a 10 scale, and good 4 stars myself, maybe because of course do enjoy these speculative fiction. I would categorize the movie as speculative fiction, since there's speculation about future events and how in such future circumstances as events, and myself as a geopolitical analyst and theorist who has theorized and had made of course my own theories about the world state back in 2019, and have been living in that mode after my geopolitical analysis for many years, and of course a survivor of COVID, survivor of COVID, who wants to move us towards a post-COVID economic, social, financial, spiritual, even political world, at least for the collective North American civilization. And again, when I say the collective North American civilization, again I speak on my own created theory, geopolitical, social, political, philosophical theory that we Quebecers in Quebec, La Belle Province, and of course Canadians coast to coast, and North Americans, Mexicans, and United States of America, where I was born twice in past lives, served in the U.S. Army 156 years ago, 780 miles that way, where you see the red dragon flag with the dancing goddess, priestess, rather. The goddess is round about us. But I am non-dogmatic, non-sectarian. Can work on principles, and of course on certain principles and principles of operations. So back to the Hunger Games. So I would categorize it as a dystopian speculative fiction. I would have to categorize the Hunger Games trilogy. Well, it's more than a trilogy because there's four, right? It's actually Mockingjay Part 1 and Mockingjay Part 2. But since they were long, kind of is and kind of isn't a trilogy. You decide. Because Mockingjay was kind of part of a one big movie. It was just too long, I guess, to have it in just Mockingjay and Catching Fire, of course, and Hunger Games, the first one. It's four movies, which I've seen them all, and they're really great. I would watch again, and they're so good that usually those rare movies, cinematography, and the dialogue was good. I enjoy good dialogue, and I do movie reviews. I enjoy good conversation, good dialogue in the movies. If anybody wants to finance to sponsor, I could write some dialogue for theater, write some dialogue for scripts, movie scripts, or even games. So I can write some creative dialogue between characters and personages. As I am, of course, also creative. I create not only in the intellectual, abstract realm of geopolitics or philosophy or spirituality or psychology, of which I'm an independent psychological analyst and theorist with my own little kitsches and my own little special dimensions of being an independent analyst in all things of civilization and nature, and not only a analyst but a theorist. Proposes theories and philosophies, and who does not know so many things I do not know, so many things I do not know, so many things I do not know. I have a lot of questions. In a parallel life, I am a scientist, where in that parallel life I've been connected during COVID, and I create, design supercomputers, ICBM rockets, and satellites, smartphones, microchips, and we're still connecting with that parallel self in this life, being a philosopher, an independent artist, independent athlete, independent activist, artist, athlete, and of course, universal spiritual teaching student who does not have all the answers, have a lot of questions. I do know that I want to break impasses personal and to move forward and to bring some joy and some implement my Trinity of theories known as CIT citizen integration theory, debt refusion theory, and democratic fusion theory. Debt refusion theory first. I just to interject something in the parallel news that's happening. Of course, that will affect us Quebecers and Canadians if there is a debt ceiling in the United States, or to how the system of the Federal Reserve works. I do believe for North America, first and foremost, NATO member countries and beyond, Bank of International Settlements, World Bank countries. But first and foremost, I am a North American, and my theories and my geopolitical analysis has been made and concluded for the realities, the political, social, geographical realities of my continent, my civilization of North America, the complex of North American civilization. But I do believe the debt refusion theory, the DRT, to create what I call the UE via public-private partnership. That's what I have been and will continue to call for all willing livings to support in any way, shape, capacity, or form. And of course, calling on my astrological brother Bill Gates, independent, of course, corporations and governments and institutions and citizens to support at this time where we are on this 24th of January. It is close to noon as I'm doing this movie review on Hunger Games, and so I'm hoping for a peaceful resolutions to conflict and that we channel and sublimate our aggression, our violence and aggression by push-ups and hugs. Let's channel the violence and the aggression Dragon Zero Rainbow Dragon style by with push-ups and hugs. Let's channel and sublimate the aggression Rainbow Dragon Zero style push-ups and hugs. As a matter of fact, my main message will be now, if but he makes it this far into the video, with consent and hygiene, gives yourselves a hug like you never hugged before. That's the main message. With consent and hygiene, give yourselves a hug like you never hugged before. With consent and hygiene, give yourselves a hug like you never hugged before, is the main message. What's the period of? Period of hockey. NHL Canadians playing tonight. Boston Bruins versus Habs versus Boston Bruins. 20 minutes, 3 periods times 20. Do the math. That's an hour. 60 minutes hug for 20 minutes or 15 minutes, a quarter of football. Basketball is the same, right? It's quarters. Each quarter has 15 minutes. I've spoken for 32 minutes and 28 seconds. What? So much, so it's time to be halfway. Dragon halfway hour with the dragon in this underground room, Austin Temple. Thank you, farmers, because everybody got to eat. Even Wall Street, please, Wall Street, if you do make 1 million on the stock market today, buy, sell, trade stocks, futures, options, puts. Please give 10% of a million. 10% of a million is 100,000. 100,000 divided by 4, that's 25,000. 25,000 is 4 times. You can give 25,000 for food security. Please do, because food security, everybody got to eat. Even Wall Street, 25,000 for food security, 25,000 for women's sports leagues, 25,000 for LGBTQ youth services, and 25,000 to plant a tree for every tree that we cut. That's something for North America we can work on. And gratitude, thankfulness that I have this cup of coffee, have, of course, food, and have this electricity. Thank you, workers of the past, present and future, who since 1944 built with brains and muscle 63 dams across this province of Quebec. Gonna bless you, big dragon hugs. Credit Hydro-Quebec workers and fellow citizens of Quebec. Gonna credit 7 billion hugs and 7 billion kisses, so that in the next 7 years we built another 7 dams across some rivers. La Romaine is going to open the 64th soon, I believe in February, maybe March, April, maybe the 64th on La Romaine. It's scheduled to open another one, so we're going to have 64 dams. So one of those combination of the dams provides me electricity, right, and you electricity, and all of us electricity, right. I'm gonna say a little joke in French, French, a little bit of French comedy. For you have to understand a little bit to understand it. I'm gonna translate it, but in order to understand it, you have to be immersed and have a little bit of knowledge or understanding of French Quebec culture, which there's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of humor in French arts. I don't know if you ever seen a French comedy, Quebec French. I'm speaking about Quebecer French, right? Because I'm a Quebecer. I'm a Quebecer. North American, Canadian, but of course you have to see such movies such Elvis Graton or Elvis Graton. Elvis Graton is a great comedy, and Bon Cop Bad Cop, which kind of plays on the Quebec net, which I want to play in part. Bon Cop Bad Cop 3, I want to play, and I wrote a few scripts, a few dialogues. Now, gonna make my own comedy now, and I'm gonna say it in French first. I'm gonna say the comedy in French, and I'm gonna make the translation. So, mais là, j'ai entendu que le pape, il est venu nous voir, le pape, ouais, il a traversé l'océan pour venir au Québec l'année passée. Mais là, sais-tu qu'on a fait de la Révolution tranquille, le pape? Sais-tu, moi, je sais pas, le pape, il lisait quelque chose en latin, j'ai rien compris. Mais là, t'as-tu dit au pape l'Hydro-Québec? Ben, l'Hydro-Québec? Ah ouais. Et s'il est venu, qu'il bénisse l'Hydro-Québec au moins. Ben ouais. Il y avait de la lumière à cause de l'Hydro-Québec. Non? Ben ouais. Ben, pape! Bénis l'Hydro-Québec, s'il vous plaît. Puis donne-nous des câlins, sinon. Pourquoi tu traverses l'océan pour venir nous voir? So this is, it's a joke, which it's a comedy, of course. Which I do a little bit of comedy in French, and I love French. I'm a Quebecer. Basically translated as the Pope, right? Because he came last year, whenever he came, June, July, whenever the Pope's visit, and said that, well, does the Pope, is he aware that we in Quebec, we went through a period, historical period in Quebec known as the La Révolution Tranquille, translated as the Quiet Revolution, which is an important historical event in Quebec society, in Quebec's culture, of which you have to have some knowledge of it to understand the trends towards a secular society, towards the philosophy, the culture of Quebec as it is, of the Quebecois people, of which I am part of. To understand it fully, you have to know a little bit of that historical development, historical marking of the transition of Quebec society towards a secular society. So basically, I said in French to the Pope that he should bless the workers of Hydro-Quebec because he has electricity to utilize due to them, and that he should give us some, offer us some hugs, because otherwise, what's the point of crossing the ocean to come see us Quebecers? Right? If he doesn't have hugs or blessing for the Hydro-Quebec, he shouldn't cross the ocean to come if he doesn't want to give the Quebecers hugs or bless the workers of Hydro-Quebec. He said you shouldn't bother to cross the ocean. So it was a little bit of a comedy humor, which I do. I enjoy French humor and comedy, and I'm a Quebecer. I'm a Quebecer, Canadian, North American, and I was born in the USA twice in past lives, and I was actually born in this island of Montreal as a Quebecer in a past life where I helped the strongman Louis Cyr. But that's another story for incarnations, reincarnations. Now, today, 24th of January, the Hunger Games. Again, I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to say my gratitude to the farmers from La Belle Province, Quebec, who do our grains, our potatoes, of course, our vegetables, our fruits, our tomatoes, and of course the bacon, the chicken, the eggs, and of course the cheese. We have great cheese. So from La Belle Province farmers, all those in La Belle Province involved now in the production and the distribution of food, and coast to coast Canada, of course, and the complex of North American civilization, and all those truckers. I'm gonna send some LOV. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Big dragon hugs to farmers, butchers, bakers, cooks, nurses, doctors, those who picked up the garbage yesterday, and of course city sanitation workers. Thank you for the work. We're gonna pick up not only who picked up the garbage, who will pick up the compost, who picked up also the recycling. I appreciate it. Thank you. And of course, city workers in the snow operation removal. From what I do here, we're gonna have another snowstorm on the way. I really enjoy snow clearing. I don't mind snow. Don't mind the winter. I don't mind it at all. The winter, of course, sometimes I say by March, by late February, start early March, I wanna get that spring rock and rolling. But of course, I don't mind snow shoveling and snow, and I do my marches in the snow and in snowstorms, as you can see from my many videos on which I've posted it. Anyways, thank you, nurses, doctors, butchers, bakers, railway conductors, firefighters, public security workers. Thank you, firefighters, all those in the trains now. There's freight trains with tons of grains, whether grains with a wheat, barley, or rice, or other grains. A good freight train going east, west, north, south, Canada, coast to coast on the railroads. Passengers, thank you, bus drivers, for the public transit, your story, which is on the public transit. I do not own a transportation vehicle or a car. I have my steel toe boots. What are you driving, Dragon? I'm driving steel toe boots and new winter boots, which my anonymous friend sister gave me. Whom, if I make a me, I'm gonna give her half. If I make a B, I'm gonna give her half. If I make a tree, I'm gonna give her half. And if I would be in position to offer somebody a job and I nominate anonymously my anonymous friend sister to be the prime viceroy chief general CEO of the my dream, which is the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom of anything that I do as an artist, activist, athlete, and philosopher and geopolitical analyst and theorist, whether working out, dancing, or philosophizing, doing movie reviews here live on Facebook and on YouTube, is of course part of the umbrella known as the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, of which yours truly, Adrian Hanna Dragon, is the androgynous pansexual androgynous, pansexual, androgynous, pansexual founder thereof, pro-labor, universal revolutionary centrist, not perfect, far from it, got some issues, got some vices, rock and roll it. Hunger Games, movie review, Hunger Games. So it's set in a dystopian future, right? But it's set dystopian future for some, because for some it seems that they have a utopia, right? So for me to categorize it just as utopian, I would say speculative science fiction, but of course with part dystopian, because it's dystopian for others, utopian for some, right? So that also has to be considered, because it seems also that the society, to me at least from my analysis, it seems to be very divided along a super wealthy, powerful, rich elite who live a decadent lifestyle. And I say the word decadent in the terms that they have so much food, so much wealth, so much riches, so much of goods and services. Because at one point during the movie, they're invited, the victors, they're invited at a party, and said there's so much food here, so much different taste, and he said I'm full, I can't have any more. When somebody comes to offer them some food, and to Katniss Everdeen, the protagonist, and to her counterpart, which plays a major role in the movie as well. They're kind of both are protagonists in many ways, and they're offered a little drink. So what is this? He said this drink will make you basically throw up, so you can have taste more food, right? So that is like wow, so much waste, right? Also affluence, in decadent in that terms, in that terminology, in terms that it's a super bourgeois elite who are very decadent in their lifestyle, or at least, well, because we have to also take into consideration that it's surrounding the main events of the Hunger Games, which are a major part of the society, right? A very hardcore event which comprises entertainment, psychology, philosophy, and everything to do with the society known as Panam, the country of Panam, which is ruled from a place, a mega metropolis called the capital. It's a metropolis called the capital. It's like huge. You see images of a huge, big skyscrapers and big skyscrapers everywhere, and you have this big city like mega metropolis, a mega city type of atmosphere. The capital, which is basically the capital, but it's called the capital. That is the name of the central district, or the central district of the capital, and it revolves around 13 other districts. And the Hunger Games, of course, are that event, annual event. So during the historical period, we can pinpoint the historical timeline. It says the beginning of the movie is the 74th. So it's like more than 70 years after an event, which was known as the Great War. So during that Great War, of devastation, and we have images of nuclear explosions, this society formed, and then the current government kind of took form and formed, imposed a authoritarian, totalitarian type of system, but that seems to be very centralized with this militarized type of police judges, which have also extreme powers of execution. They can execute citizens and They are known as the peacekeepers, and another eerie part is the paradox. To me, it's a paradox. They wear white, right? They're dressed in white, almost all white. There's some black in it for their belts and other attire, but mostly they wear white. They're all in white. It's kind of gives us, to me, gave me the feel of part a theocracy, like a theocratic, but it's not officially a theocratic system because God is not mentioned that much, or goddess, or something spiritual is not mentioned that much, but it's mostly around the power of the president, which is more than a president, is an autocratic dictator with supreme powers, and how the government and the current state, the current system, I should say, political, social, economic, financial system, came into power after that Great War, devastating event across North America. And the games are an annual event which are hardcore, since each district out of the 13 districts, and one of the districts was destroyed after in the movie, and they each have to send one male and one female participant to this event, which takes place, occurs in the central district, in the metropolis capital, which is named the capital. And so from District 12 is of course selected Katniss Everdeen, who is not selected, but she volunteers because her little sister is selected. So there seems to be also the age very low age that can be selected for the Hunger Games. So they're selected basically out of the 12 districts, two each. So 12 times 2 is 24 total contestants. 12 male, 12 female, right? 12. It also gave me the impression of something to do because 12 districts and the 13, there was one kind of a, makes me think of course, being a student scholar of the Bible, right? 12 and 13. 13 was destroyed or not spoken about so much because they weren't in the story. They were not really destroyed. Don't want to give up too much if you haven't seen it, the movie, but they were not really destroyed, but they went kind of underground, right? It was nuclear and some kind of a shady deal done with the president, autocrat dictator, because president, it's called officially the president, but he's not really a president with who rules a democracy. It seems that it's an oligarchical system to me, a type of oligarchical system with which revolves around this annual ritual because it's very ritualized. So there is that kind of mystical, spiritual, religious, semi-religious component in how I got the feel from the movie of the rituals. Makes me also think of ancient ancient Sparta, for a little bit of modern technology and modern ways, but with a little bit of the ancient Spartan games, which were of course part of, they had wrestling, but of course this was to the death, right? So also gladiatorial, ancient Rome also made me think of the ancient Rome comparison to the modern Hunger Games, where of course the gladiators, or of course matches to the death. So do you have that component to the Hunger Games as well. So it's semi-ritualized, semi-spiritual, psychological, philosophical annual sports events where basically the 24 contestants from the 12 different districts, they fight each other and they try to survive environments which are extreme environments in different settings, forests, or and you have beasts attacking them, and you have themselves trying to form alliances and coalitions, and until one last remaining victor remains in the Hunger Games. So they're once a year, and it's of course the ones who get selected. But Katniss Everdeen, she of course volunteers for her sister. Again, I don't want to discourse too much, since of course some might have not seen it, and if you did not see Hunger Games, then of course you gotta watch it, and you gotta make an idea for yourself. But nonetheless, the little sister Everdeen, she gets selected, and Katniss volunteers, and they make a big fuss that for the first time, District 12 had volunteers, a volunteer, which is kind of praised or applauded, lauded. And they go to the capital, or then they go to the capital, and you see where Katniss Everdeen, they go by this fancy train, and you see that in the distinction right away in the District 12, where Katniss Everdeen, the main protagonist, lives. They live in a very impoverished type of setting. So it seems to me, my analysis of the movie, my review is based on books. The books I haven't read, so they're probably more detailed. But the districts, they seem to be having specialized in different areas of civilization or different industries, because when they're paraded during the parade, which takes place in the capital, which is this big mega city metropolis, see, full of affluence and riches, and you see the garments in the District 12 when it begins, how they don't have that many clothes. They're having very impoverished. Seems that District 12 is kind of the more impoverished, more poor, more rural, even rural background. And of course, the district seems to be focalized on different parts of. Some have fishing, some have agriculture, some have metallurgy, some have more technology, some have natural resources. So they seem to have different specializations in areas that the capital controls them all in an autocratic, totalitarian manner, with this semi-police, semi-military institution called, of course, the peacekeepers. But they're very extreme in their rendering of justice, and it seems that they can, of course, punish. There's even lashes, lashes, public lashes. So this also made me think of ancient Sparta and other ancient cultures, of course, where you had public floggings. Of course, in the public, you see at one point during the movie that there's the administration of lashes. So one of the peacekeeper that are based on hierarchical structure. But from my analysis and my giving a review, I would categorize, again, not having read the books, that the system is an autocratic, totalitarian oligarchy, oligarchical system. Oligarchical system. I wouldn't compare it with neither communism, neither fascism, but somewhere a little bit of. It has features of both in many ways. Has centralization of power, and has features of both a communist and a fascist system, with its own very peculiar system of governments and society, how it's structured. And it seems to be very also extreme in the classes. It seems that there's an elite, oligarchical elite, and kind of the rest, like the 1% and the 99%. That's the setting, the feel from the, if you want to be a social financial classes, or the economic financial structure, with an elite that is part of the Hunger Games. To organize the Hunger Games, it's part of the society, and of course, it revolves around supposedly maintaining the peace and equilibrium and balance of Panam, the society, by this annual event, which is kind of like 2 week event, 2 weeks or so, from what we know from the movie, from the dialogue, from the communication, where from each district there's two, a male and a female, who are being selected by random selections, with the name being drawn by a person sent from the capital to the districts. And you see from District 12, it's Katniss Everdeen, who volunteers for her sister. So that's another thing that can happen, is that somebody can volunteer. Otherwise, they're selected by random. According, they have to be young, but they can be very young. From I believe, I think young, such as 11, and from 11 to 18, or from 7 to 18, something like that. From 7, at least from 7 years old, 7 years old, to 18, about, or 7 to 16, or 7 to 16, maybe. Yeah, 7 to 18, 7 to, anywhere between, I believe 7 to 18, but now I have to check, maybe it's 7 to 16 that they can be selected. So they have that age range, right? Like they can be selected, and it's a fight for survival and to the end, that is televised, kind of almost live. I mean, live, right? But it's live stream in many ways. And of course, there's also the sponsors, which can sponsor the different contestants, who have to try to survive until one out of the 24 survives, and that is the victor. And of course, there's controversy. I don't want to give too much. That there's a controversy, of course, that kind of the rules change due to the circumstances change. And of course, as Katniss becomes a symbol of a sort of a resistance to the government and to the policies of the government, and how the capital administrates justice and society in what's known as the districts. So the districts are kind of like provinces or states. The districts, there's 12, there has been 13. And again, it made me think of the Bible, of course, as a student scholar of Western civilization and Judaism, and of course Christianity, and that the 12 tribes, right? The 12 tribes, which, of course, if we are to go back that far in time, Moses and the 12 tribes, let's keep in mind that that story is more than 3,500 years ago. So, of course, there's a lot of mystic and a lot of allegory and a lot of spirituality, and not necessarily literal. And of course, we have the 12 constellations, right? The 12 with the 13 constellation, and also we have in the Bible the 13th tribe, which was Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, right? Who became Israel in the Bible. And keep in mind that when we reference the stories from the Torah, the Bible, Jacob supposedly lived 3,750 years ago, right? Consequent of ancient Egyptian civilization, right? As we read in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, right? From ancient Egypt. So the Pan Am society is a type, in my opinion, a type of oligarchical system, and the annual event known as the Hunger Games are both a sort of a celebration of the government, of the president of the government, of them having maintained and established a new order of this peace, of this where there's no more conflict, but there's hardships. There's a lot of hardships and discontents, and there's a lot of executions and a lot of injustices going on, of course. And this, of course, the in the movie, the differential between the affluence is very even obscene, right? It borders on obscene and disgustingly, how they even waste food, while in certain districts they have barely any food, as it shows in the movie that in District 12, when the friend of Katniss Everdeen, the main protagonist, shares a half of his piece of bread and says, "Is this real?" and like cherishes that piece of bread and smells it like mmm. And while in the capital, they drink sort of a drink, a mixture of an essence, so that they can throw up the food that they just have eaten in order to taste some other food. So that decadent bourgeois, ultra bourgeois type of living, when there's a lot of food waste. Please, no food waste. Please, no food waste. Please, no food waste. Compost instead. Compost instead. Compost instead. So as the movie proceeds, prolongs, of course, it's four different movies. It's a trilogy plus one, I would say. You see the changes in the society, and of course, she becomes a symbol for resistance, for people calling for change, for something to change in the administration. And of course, the annual Hunger Games are, like I said, a semi part psychological, part entertainment, a lot of entertainment and diversity, and it's televised, right? That's the main component, that it's televised in all the districts, and people have to, they're almost compelled to watch it, almost forced into watching these Hunger Games, which are a ritualized event with the selection and of the 24 contestants, two from each district, one male, one women, and of course, at the end, supposedly one supposed victor is crowned as champion, is crowned to be a champion of the Hunger Games, becomes the a champion, and is crowned and is given riches and wealth and prestige and affluence from one of the victors. But the capital, where the oligarchical, the rulers are, the economic, political, social rulers are, it's kind of a oligarchical type of setting. It doesn't seem to have, seems that there's a lot of nepotism, but it doesn't seem to me, at least from the movies, that there's direct, that it's not really based on bloodlines. It's not hereditary necessarily. It's mostly on those who are living or born in the capital in different ways. It doesn't seem that there's like a hereditary monarchy or based on father and son inheritance. It doesn't seem to be that way. It just seems to be very oligarchy, concentrated elite, oligarchical elite who rules the majority of the districts from that capital centralized environment via the help of the militarized police that is known as the peacekeepers, who are part military, part police, of course, from the capital. And the capital is a huge mega city, and the parades before the Hunger Games begin, they take a few days, and the the ones who are selected, the 24 from the 12 districts who are selected, who go to the capital, are given a royal type of welcome, right? They're given the best. They're given good food. They have penthouses. They have the rooms are full of riches, of wealth, of beauty, right? The bath, the all that they have for those days before they enter the games are very rich. So that's also important, and they're given rich foods, and they're driven there to the capital in a fancy, eloquent train, right? Because they have so much good food and liquor, and they're being mentored by past. They have to be mentored by a past winner who mentors the ones who enter the Hunger Games, and it's a fight basically for survival into the death, which takes on a few days, but the whole ritual takes a few weeks. And another important marking is when each contestant, a male and a woman, the two contestants, when they go to the capital, there's a parade, the Hunger Games parade, and that's another important event in the ritualized annual Hunger Games, which we know it's the 74th, is that they're brought in on these horses, and it kind of looks to me like the ancient gladiatorial, almost ancient Roman Empire type of setting, with the president Coriolanus, of course, no, is an autocrat, is a dictator, is not a democratic president, but he has the title. Paradoxically, the title of president is given to President Snow, which is the main antagonist to the main protagonist, Katniss Everdeen. Coriolanus Snow is the protagonist, and then you have several other characters who are more protagonistic and more antagonistic who support Katniss Everdeen. And there's the rebellion brewing, discontent, which brews into rebellion to the leadership of President Snow and the capital's many abuses that are ongoing. But during the parade of their entrance under the capital and the presentation, each district is shown, and that's when, due to the commentary, you kind of figure out that each district is involved with different things of civilization to maintain Panam, the state society, super state, or kind of an empire, even has imperialistic a feel to it. It does certainly have a feel of a oligarchical empire of North America, which formed. And it's, of course, when they enter on horses, and says, "Hey, look at they're very designed in so many rich attire, the garments, very fashion, and it's televised throughout the whole of the Empire State, known as Pan Am. Right? It's televised on the television, live stream and live television, because it's the main event, main sports, main entertainment, main cultural, semi-ritualized, ritualistic ritual has become a ritual sports entertainment event of Pan Am, the Hunger Games. Those 2 weeks of them doing the going to try to survive in different hardcore environments, and it seems that, from what we know, the environments change from year to year. You have all sorts of beasts and creatures, and they're given some weapons or they're sponsors, and they chase each other and they kill each other basically until one remains. And the past victors are shown as, of course, living in good. They're giving riches and honors, and they're giving a lot of wealth, a lot of prestige. And when they enter in the capital, when they're parade or the parade, as it's called, they have each district seems to have on their garments, on their clothing, that kind of embodies, represents their district. Because at one point I mentioned, hey, look, fisheries, I get it, fishing, right? So basically, with fishing, with forestry, with metallurgy, with agriculture, and so on and so forth, on the industries, different district seems to be specialized. Different districts seems to have a specialization in an area of the economy, culture, society of known as Pan Am, which has imperialistic type of attributes to it. So it's a great movie. I recommend it. I rate it high. Has good dialogue. Has a little bit of everything. I would classify it as speculative science fiction with dystopian utopian, because for the majority of people it's dystopia, but the ones in the oligarchy seem to live very well, and super rich. And you see this very contrasting images from District 12, where they live in an impoverished place where they have to scramble for bread, for food. Food is scarce in District 12. Food is very scarce throughout most of the districts, it seems. Food is scarce, and clothing, and they lack basic necessities, toothbrushes and toothpaste, and basic necessities they have to share, and they have to, well, at the capital, the mega city, the metropolis, which seems like a huge mega city, was big skyscrapers, huge. It seems that they are very rich, so there's very big gaps, big distinctions. So I do strongly recommend, suggest the watching of the movie, as I did enjoy it, and I would. It's a movie that I would, of course, watch again, maybe once, at least one more time. But if you haven't seen it, I do recommend it, and let me know if you classify it as a sci-fi. Classify it as a speculative science fiction movie with great acting and great, of course, garments, and of course it can be pretty hardcore. But of course, I did enjoy it. Did love the story, the plot. There's a little bit of everything: psychology, sexuality, violence. I think it's rated PG-13, and of course it's you can meditate on a lot of things of civilization and society, past, present. Seems to be to me like the society is a mixture of present and perhaps future, and hopefully not, and what have lived humanity in the past. So it's Pan an imperialistic type of oligarchy with authoritarian control, or the President Snow as the main antagonist, and Katniss Everdeen, who volunteers to go instead of her sister, as the main protagonist, and their evolution and the changing of the character, and the, of course, resistance and the opposition, and the population wanting to have better days and to see a change in the system, and a change in the way things are done from the authoritarian capital throughout the districts. And maybe even there seems to be a trend or a fear that they do not want to hold these very important semi-religious, cultural, entertainment, and psychological and cultural event known as the Hunger Games, which, from what we know, is the 74th. It seems that a lot of the population is kind of revolting against this practice, which, of course, has barbarism. It's a paradox again that it's barbaric in many ways, because, of course, the 24th, 24 contestants, 23 out of the 24, since only one lone survivor will remain, and those are the rules. They have to fight until the death. They're put into that atmosphere, into that situation of having to fight each other by, of course, what seems to be, to all apparent observers, to be random selections, because when the representative from the capital goes and draws the name from selectees, they're selected by some peacekeepers, and they're selected by a certain age. So between an age, they're basically they're young, they're youth. They have to be among the youngest, between 7 or 16, or between 7 and 18. I have to double check that. But nonetheless, there can be very young, right? I think as young as 7 or as young as 11. I have a doubt whether it's 11 or 7 or 16 or 18. The age that the selectors have to be young, right? Well, not necessarily, and unless they volunteer. So it's those rules and regulations. So all elder can volunteer, but from my understanding, this when they are selected among the youngest, right? The youngest and freshest, and of course, you see that they're selected by putting a little imprint of blood and by random selections. And Cadmus, of course, volunteers. And of course, there seems to be a resistance to this practice, which has been, from what we know from the movie, has been going on for more than 7 decades. So it's the 74th And of course, it has a barbaric. It's barbaric. It's brutal, right? Because it's death sport, right? 23 die out of the 24. Because each time, each year, since 12 district, well, to one point in time, there was a 13 district, but there's a controversy around District 13. There's a controversial point of view, which it's kind of left to mystery, and we figure out from the dialogue what really happened to District 13. There was a shady deal done, and XYZ factors which have remained undisclosed in District 13, and maybe we'll find out more, and I'm sure we will, to the fact that soon there's going to be a prequel to the Hunger Games prequel, so we'll know what happened before the advent of Katniss Everdeen and the subsequent revolution, and basically the subsequent revolution which occurred and transpired thereafter. So what has happened thereafter is, of course, left a lot of mystery, and of course there's probably hints in the books. There's more detail in the books than, of course, in the movies, because you can only put so many things in. The movies are more than 2 hours, in 2 hours 20 minutes, 2 hours 30 minutes, and 2 hours and 10 minutes, 2 hours and something, more than 2 hours the movie, so they're not that long. It's a good movie, so I didn't feel long at all. And the the resistance grows around the Hunger Games, because it's of course barbaric, but it's a way, of course, it's presented as having been a way to establish peace throughout the land, or for established order, that through this event society comes together to heal. It's almost a psychological, spiritual type of catharsis, when you heal from certain wounds by doing a certain activities. And I can attest to that, working out, training and exercising, doing my own creative workout training program, which I'm advocating, of course, for the incorporations in the schools and throughout North America, as young as 7, actually, to try to do my workout for fitness. Push-ups, squats, hawks, push-ups, squats, hawks, push-ups, squats, hawks, and have fun doing it. Within the rules, of course, I am proud to have created my own workout training program, and I'm advocating for a public-private partnership and the mass financing thereof of citizens to work out, to train, and to exercise, since it has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy of choice. Both my medicine and therapy, and get a little bit of joy, so you can have fun and harm none, contrary to the Hunger Games, where to fight I call for channeling and sublimating aggression and violence with push-ups and hugs. It's happened in the Dancing Goddess and the Dragon Empire, and the Dancing Goddess Empire and the Dragon Kingdom, which are one. Let's have channeling the aggression and the violence with push-ups, with hugs, with dancing, with tickles, with public washings. I had actually an idea for in the 21st century, for whether from March or spring, April to October, whatever, when it's hot for 7 months, we have the North American Public Hygiene League, where we organize a few times a week, or during the weekend, or 3 times a week, or every whatever, 3 times a week, once a week. We have citizens with consent and hygiene, and we wash each other with soap and water in the public. And that's a good wash. Oh, that was a great wash. Look at that. And it's live streamed to all North America. When we wash, we wash. We all wash each other in with different age groups. So the youth wash the youth, those to 7 to 11, 11 to 14, 14 to 18, and then 18 plus by age categories. Segments by age categories. Just had an idea or a thought for the future, for the 21st century, where it would be a way to have fun in a different setting. And of course, you can. It's not competitive. It's just creative, and people washing each other with soap in the public. With public hygiene events, public hygiene sports league, the League of Hygiene Sports, or the Public Hygiene Sports League. Public Hygiene Sports Leagues. PH Public Hygiene Sports League. PH Public Hygiene Sports League. PH Public Hygiene Sports League. PH SL, the PHSL. PHSL, PHSL. I had an idea. I was laughing the other day. I said, I actually imagined it, and I said, oh, public-private partnership, dancing goddess in the Dragon Kingdom, why not? I love water, so, and I don't mind soap, so I could could do a lot of volunteering and cheer on and partake in the games. You know, you could wear a mask if you will, or all body types, all with consent and hygiene. If you enter the arena or the designated area, you get washed, just maybe not the face. Or you can say stop, raise your hands, and that means stop. Or if you have your hands down, you can wash or other. Just simple rules, just not, of course, the genitals or what have you, right? Not the genitals or what have you. Come here with the rules, but if you have your hands raised, that means you're going out. You finished your washing. If you have your hands down, that means you're ready to wash somebody or to wash or XYZ, whatever it is. Or you can be the one, it can be with, if you wear a certain color, you're the one red, you're the one giving the wash. Where you wear green, you're the one receiving. If you wear swimsuit, or of course the pants, the pants of the pants, that is the bathing suit, whether it's green or red, or of course if it's a suit, whatever you're wearing for the public washes. Shorts, you have to wear some shorts, right? It's not naked. That's only after midnight. But it could be fun. I don't know. It's a creative idea. I would go for it. I would. Yay! I'll be even excited. Yay! Today is Sunday, public. Throughout North America, Quebec, Canada, US. Today is Sunday. It's, or 3 times a week. It can be like a game of hockey, or it can be once a week, from mid-March to mid-September, right? 7 months. Or spring, summer, where temperatures has to be temperatures 15 plus, right? Has to be 15 plus at least, or 20 around that, or maybe from April to September, whatever, throughout North America. And yay, Sunday, and throughout the whole day there's designated areas where you can engage in that activity, and live stream and film, and you can see it on radio, television, and where citizens engage in that with simple rules, right? If you raise your hands, you're done. You don't want to be washed anymore by that person. You move on. And there's masks or whatever, or security, with security, of course. And I'll be, yay! I'm gonna get washed today. I'm gonna wash somebody. I'm gonna get washed. I'll be all excited. Soap and water, soap and water, soap and water. I'll be, yay! Sunday or Saturday. It could be both days, Saturdays and Sundays during the weekend, or 7 months of the whole year. The Public Hygiene Sports League, public-private partnership, the Public Hygiene Sports Leagues. And with that idea, a creative idea, rock and roll. Thank you, farmers, because everybody got 80 for Wall Street. Please, Wall Street, give 10% for food security. If you make a million on the stock market today, buy, sell, trading, future stocks, option, puts. You got a few more hours to rock and roll. Gonna go have some lunch on the budget. 12:43 p.m. here. Gonna go check my emails, write some more emails for possible cooperation, inviting all to support yours truly, Adrian Dragons business. Thank you, farmers. Please, Wall Street, give 10% if you make a million buying, selling, trading stocks, futures, options, puts today on the stock market. Please give 10% of that million profit, which is the equivalent of 100,000 is 10% of a million divided by 4. So you can give to 4 different causes, such as one cause 25,000, which is 1/4 of 100,000. 25,000 you can give to food security, 25,000 for women's sports leagues, 25,000 for LGBTQ youth causes, and 25,000 for the environment, to plant a tree for every tree. Please, go to the heart. By yours truly, financially living in a crisis, but am grateful, thankful that my rent is fully paid. Am grateful this month of January, grateful, thankful that my rent's fully paid, grateful, thankful that my electricity bill is fully paid, and that I'm utilizing clean, zero pollution, zero emission energy, utilizing it. Also that have food, and my internet is paid. Triple bill is paid, internet paid, electricity bill is paid, and rent is paid. So can rock and roll, work, got food. If I can write some emails, make another cup of coffee, can contact for business, for services, and selling my services and initiatives and projects and programs by knocking on the door in a modern way too. Different businesses, medium, small, big business, See, we're gonna rock and roll, check some emails with some hope. Maybe I'll get that first donation via PayPal, commission, financing for a dance or a workout, or somebody gonna buy my clothing, which I'm auctioning 93% of all the items, clothes, such as, of course, shoes, necklaces. 93%, 93%, 93% of all the items which you do own, such as this hoodie, these pants, these socks, these slippers, and 93%. I'm gonna keep some, only some essentials, auctioning to raise funds for the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom, which is my dream for world peace. Adrian Hanna Dragon's dream for world peace. Thank you again, truckers. Sending some big dragon hugs, some love to all those thousands of truckers across Quebec, La Belle Province, Canada, coast to coast, from North America, Mexico, going with those goods, grains to go, the supply chains for the eggs, for the milk and the butter and the bread, transporting it so that families can eat. All those involved in the production and the distribution of food, cooks, all those, of course, in the farms, in the dairy farmers, all those involved in the production and the distribution of food, city workers, sanitation workers, truckers, those unloading the trucks now in the warehouses, loading and unloading, putting on the pallets with steel toe boots, construction workers filling out potholes, and of course clearing up the snow. Thank you. Multi-billionaires, artists or athletes or CEOs, y'all calling you out to give 10%. If you're a multi-millionaire, multi-billionaire, please give to food security first and foremost, because even you gotta eat tonight. Habs, please. Those making $10 million salaries annually, $7 million, $6 million, $3 million annual salary, please give to food security, and of course women's sports leagues, and of course other issues. And give 1% to the dancing goddess in the dragon kingdom. 1%, NFL, National Football League, NHL, National Hockey League, NBA, National Basketball Association, MLB. Call to all, please increase in acts of goodness and kindness as we try to move towards a post-COVID world. So I'm calling all to support willingly loving rock and roll. We encourage all to work out, train, exercise today. Working out, training, and exercising has been, is, and will be my medicine and therapy. A choice to encourage, strongly suggest you do some push-ups, do some hawks, do some squats today. Do my workout later on. Well, we'll live stream it on Facebook. And please increase in hygiene in public. Please increase in hygiene in public. Facebook Live.